These are some frequently asked questions that relate to legislative history and intent in the state of California. First, what is legislative history? Generally, legislative history relates to how a bill becomes law and includes the documents and steps involved in passage of the successful legislation. What is statutory history? Statutory history is generally defined as changes to the language of the bill through the legislative process, i.e., how the bill, ultimately turning into a statute, was changed or modified. And what is legislative intent? Legislative intent is generally defined as why a bill became law, who proposed it. The primary documents of legislative history can often illustrate legislative intent. Now, what's the purpose of determining legislative intent? Well, seeking legislative intent is what judges and others do in order to determine what the goal or purpose of the legislature was when the legislation was passed and enacted into law. And this, of course, requires in the first place a review and understanding of the plain language of the statute. What can be legislative history documents? Examples of legislative history include committee reports, statements of support or opposition from interested parties, press releases, media articles, presidential signing or vetoing messages, gubernatorial ones at the state level, bill analyses by committees or floor, etc. What legislative history documents are most persuasive? The courts in California generally have determined that the best history of the legislation is that which represents and was presented to the large body of legislators, not just the bill's author or one side of that public policy debate. And finally, what can be statutory history documents? Well, examples of statutory history include drafting history. For example, how was the statute amended prior to its enactment? What were the prior versions of the bill? And sometimes legislative intent statements found in the act itself.